5 scores! Rick Vaughn.
We've decided to get ourselves back in the game again with our podcast.
Rick Vaughn, Gary Madden.
Probably the craziest story that you're ever going to hear about hockey.
We're going to be coming back to you on a regular basis.
You are listening to Squid and the Ultimate Leafs Fan.
Hello, Canada and hockey fans of the United States and Newfoundland, and an extra big hello to Canadian servicemen overseas.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 121 of the Squid and Ultimate Leafs Fan Show. I'm Mike Wilson, the Ultimate Leafs Fan. Joining me, as always, my winger, Ricky Squid Vibes. Squid, how are we keeping?
Not bad, Mike. Trying to watch the National Hockey League and the Stanley Cup Finals and playing golf at 8 o'clock in the morning is a little tough, but I get a couple of periods in and I got to go to bed. But I think it's going to be all over tomorrow night. And or is it tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night.
Yeah, I think that's the end of it.
Well, I like just on that note, you're watching hockey, get up and go and play golf in the morning. I don't think you're going to get a lot of emails and texts like feeling real sorry for you, especially when the guy's on his way to work.
Well, that's a good point.
So I think I would just sort of keep that one for what it is. Every day is Sunday for us. Yeah, that's the way you have to look at it. Now, our guest today, we've got a long story about this poor old guy. It's been a while, but he went undrafted, but signed with the Boston Bruins out of junior in 2002. Enjoyed a 14-year pro career with stops in New York and Toronto, and very well known in Toronto. Was known as an enforcer who could play. He also coached. Let's welcome Colton Orr. Colton, first off, thanks for joining us, and how's it going?
It's going great, Mike. Thanks for having me. Rick, great to see you. I hope you guys are doing well.
Besides playing charity games with Squid these days, like what else are you doing to keep yourself busy?
I'm busy. I'll tell you, I'm not getting up at 8 a.m. to go golfing in the morning. That's for sure. But no, I coach the Connecticut Whale in the PHF, which is a women's professional hockey league. This will be my 5th season coming up doing that. So that's been a lot of fun. Watch that grow, that league grow over the last few years, and it is getting a lot of exposure and with super talented players in that league right now. So it's been a lot of fun to be part of that. And then I do some stuff with like the NHL alumni. Like you said, we're out there all the time doing those charity games. And then this year, I took on a role at my children's school as a gym teacher. So I don't know who would have thought growing up that would have been a career path for me to end up teaching gym from kindergarten to 8th grade. But it's been a lot of it's obviously for the 1 year just to fill in. Didn't have a gym teacher this year, but what a great experience watching to see my kids every day, see them at school, get to teach them gym. And I brought dodgeball back and all the fun games where we're competing and making sure we're winning. So no participation trophies in my gym class.
Squid?
You keep them in line, I bet, Colton. They probably don't step out of line when you're in there.
No, they all call me coach. It's been a lot of fun. Great kids, and I made a lot of good connections. Yeah, but they're definitely, they know when I'm serious.
Now let's talk about the women's hockey. How did you get involved in that and at the coaching level? And just give us your views on where you think the league is going and what it needs to get it pushed over the top.
Yeah, so I retired in 2016. Took some time. I did some scouting, did some development stuff, and I was kind of just bouncing around trying to figure out what I want to get into. Obviously, I like coaching. I had some really good coaches throughout my career. And Paul Mara, who was coaching the Boston Pride at the time, teammate of mine at the New York Rangers, reached out to me and said there was a position available with the Connecticut Whale. He just told me to take a chance on it, to come out, help the league a little bit. And kind of just get involved, and it'd be a good spot for me to kind of get started within coaching. And so now here we are 5 years in, and just to watch, like I said before, the growth of the league has been absolutely amazing. We've gone from kind of a part-time league, only practicing once or twice a week before, to now, we're a full-time league now, and players are making 6-figure salaries, some of them, to be able to kind of have a dream after their college career to go play professional hockey. So it's been really fun to watch. I got a daughter who's 10 years old. She played a little bit of hockey, and just watching her look up to these players and look up to these women. They all are all super professional. Some of them have amazing careers. Like we had a scientist on our team last year, a nurse, and school teachers, and just different different professions like that. And they're still keeping up with a full schedule of hockey, and to my demands and what we ask for them and how hard we practice practice and put in the work. It's been amazing what they've been able to do. And, they just want to see the exposure, making sure that they're getting out there, they're on TV, they're being seen, because it's a great game. These women can play, they're fast, they're strong, they're physical. So it's a great product, and it even just getting better year to year.
But you don't live in Connecticut. But you're in New York, so you're not that far away, right?
Yeah, so I'm in New York, right on the border of Connecticut, right by Danbury. So I'm not too far. We play out of Simsbury, just outside of Hartford. So it's not too bad of a commute, and it's pretty close to me.
Now, Danbury, that's the Danbury Trashers, the famous, famous team.
Yeah. Well, so I just another thing that I'm involved in. I'm actually a part owner of the Danbury Hat-Tricks, who just won the title in the FHL this year. They're the ones that take it over for the Danbury Trashers. So we got a bit of a feel. We wore their retro jerseys, and we play a physical brand of hockey. And Danbury just loves it. We sell at that building every night, and it was a really fun to watch the way the players did. And to top it off with a championship was pretty cool. Bring it back to Connecticut.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, when that team was, did they ever reach out to you to come and play for them?
You know what? I was going to. Pre-COVID, it was March, right before I was lined up to play a game. My nephew was on the team, Cruz Lismeyer. My brother was going to come in for a game. We always wanted to play professional hockey together. When my nephew was 10 years old, I signed him a poster that said, "One day we'll play pro hockey together." And maybe it wasn't the NHL, but we were going to try and do it in the FHL and the Fed. Obviously COVID hit, we didn't get the opportunity. But yeah, definitely there's been some chances where I might have had to suit up for sure.
That's
really, so you missed out on that bag of cash.
Yeah, it was going to be a big payday. I don't know, I might have got my itch to get me back in the game. I would have been playing still if I would have got that game in. Right.
Now, Colton, you've come from far away. You're all over the map in hockey, but you're born in Winnipeg. So hockey's not hard to come by coming from that province and coming from that area. But talk about how you got involved in the game and when you started to take notice this was something you really wanted to get involved with.
Yeah, so definitely, like, my story is I was a late starter in hockey, and I think I'm from Winnipeg, but I didn't start hockey till 11 years old. Didn't skate, didn't play. Obviously, I was out there playing street hockey with my buddies and things like that, but didn't take up the game real early on. My dad, when I was like 5 years old, bought me everything, all the Cooperalls and all the old gear like back then, and I just wouldn't play, wouldn't go to the rink. He couldn't get me out there. He's trying to force me, wanted me to play hockey, and just wouldn't do it. So he kind of just gave up on me for a little bit. And I had a younger brother who kind of was coming up as well. And so he started putting stock in my younger brother. And once I seen him started playing when he's about 4 years younger than me, so he's 5 when he started playing, I was like, oh, maybe I'm going to start to like this game a little bit, and I'll start going to the rink with him. So yeah, so my dad would kind of get me back and give me the opportunity. When I turned 11, they put me on some house team. My dad just threw me out there. I was like, that's it, you're going to go play. And then I played my first game, and I was lucky to get some coaches early on when I was 11, 12, saw some potential in me as an athlete. I ended up being drafted to the Western Hockey League at 14, just a few years into my hockey career. Third overall to Swift Current Broncos, or third round to Swift Current Broncos. And I kept being somebody's project. I kept being like, someone wanted to work with me. They saw potential. They saw, someone they could work with that was big, physical. I always have the joke that I couldn't stop when I started playing hockey, so I just either ran into somebody or ran into the boards to use that, and that's where my checking and physicality came from. But yeah, I just kept getting opportunities and kept working and pushed myself every level I could. I usually seemed to get cut from a team, and then it would push me even further. I want to make that team the next year, and again, just kind of really just put myself in a position to continue to work hard, and eventually made it, which is as a free agent.
Colton, now, did you play a lot of other sports when you were young?
Yeah, I played everything. I think I was actually a better soccer player than I was a hockey player. I played goaltender. I was on the Team Manitoba, scouted for Team Canada, had scholarship offers, but it just didn't see the pathway to be a soccer player coming out of Canada and your options, going after college. And obviously hockey was starting to pick up, and like I said, I was drafted to the Western League, and so started to just look at some of those options, and obviously that was a better choice. But yeah, I played football, baseball, basketball in high school. I just tried to play absolutely everything. That was something my dad pushed me to do. He always believed in just like cross training. You get baseball, your hand eye. You play soccer for the endurance, and football. I played football. I was physical. I could hit. I was run and all that kind of stuff. So I always preach today, and I think a lot of athletes do, is play other things, try everything, find out what you love. and find out what you love to do first, and then figure it out from there.
Yeah, it's funny. I wanted to ask you that because I'm big on that, and I've always told the kids that, you know, play other sports and everything. And I always said, if I got a hockey player that's here and all he plays is hockey, and this guy's a little bit below him, but he's a good athlete because he plays other sports, I can probably make him a better hockey player than the other guy because he's a good athlete.
Yeah, I agree with that. I got two sons, one's 7, one's 3. I didn't do what my dad did. I didn't push him and try and force him out there. I kind of waited till he was like wanted to play, and I just brought him around the rink, and he's loving it, and he's obsessed with it, and all he wants to do is go to the rink and watch highlights. But, you know, I'm pushing him to play other things as well, like getting him into other sports and other stuff, just so, you know, he can make sure that's what he wants to do. And again, it's going to only help him if he's playing other sports.
Funny you mentioned that, Colton, because my youngest son, who's still playing in Cincinnati in the ECHL, played 700 pro game this year. And I remember when he started in Charleston, South Carolina, I mean, I think he was 5. And all he did was stand there, and he waved at us in the stands, and we were like, what are you doing? So one game, I think his third game, the puck came to him, hit his stick. He pushed it, then started moving his feet, went down, scored a goal. That was it. Like, after that, you couldn't stop him. And, I mean, it's amazing sometimes how they kind of come around, you know, when they're that age.
Yeah, it's fun to watch. It's really neat to see them kind of just like take to the game and watch the players and learn. They all have the YouTube now, and he's all trying to do the Zegras and the Michigan and working on all the skills when they're young. It's fun. It's fun to see.
Now, going back to you, now your age between 11 and 14 before you got to the WHL, Colton, were you a big kid at that age, and when did the physical part of your game come into your game?
Yeah, you know what's funny is as I talk about this all the time, and I was always a bigger kid. Like I talk, I was always physical. I was always like checking and hitting. We started hitting when I was 12, so right when I was starting hockey, we were pretty much doing body contact. So it's always been a big part of my game. And you know, there's a lot of players that, you know, were in junior hockey and, you know, putting up 30, 40 goals, but when they got the NHL, they had to change their game to stay around and turn into a fighter, or you know, just to do it there, that had to stay there. And for myself, I was that kind of forward from the time I was 14, 15 years old. I was physical, you know, I'd fight if I had to, was always standing up for my teammates. It's something I took pride in, making sure that my teammates felt comfortable out there, and they could just go out there and play hockey, and I could take that pressure off them. And so I've always something I enjoyed doing, and right through my junior career, that's something I was doing. I knew at that time, especially within the league, you looked at the NHL the way it was, there was opportunity for tough guys like myself to just make it on you know, protecting your teammates, playing a role, making sure you understand what you had to do, and played a simple game, physical game, tried to change momentum. So just always that was my style. That's where I played, and that's how I got there.
Well, I asked that because you must have been, 14 when you played in the Manitoba Junior League, and you had 280 minutes in penalties. Like, how many 14-year-olds?
Yeah, but I think I was 16 by the time.
Were you 16 by that time?
16, yeah. But it was such a. I probably had 30 fights. I was the enforcer on the team. I remember going up to OCN up in the Paw. And the OCN flu was real. Like, we'd get up there and guys be calling in sick. They've got work. They can't go. And we'd go up there with half a team. And I'd get into 3 fights a game going up there. We'd have the Tutu brothers up there, and they'd have Stephen McIntyre, and just a bunch of tough guys and skill. And they were a really good team as well. But we'd go up there half a team, and they'd put it on a 16-year-old to make sure that they were protected and that. So. And I was a big kid, and I had no problem doing it, and I didn't lose too many. And that's kind of, I think people took notice. And then again, just went to the Western League in Swift Current, had Todd McClellan there take a chance on me and want to work with me. And again, I thought he was really big for my game and trying to turn me more and then just an enforcer. So again, it really had some really good coaches, you know, throughout my career, and like Dean Evanson and Cam Loops, and you know, getting into the league and having, you know, Mike Sullivan early on in my province career. So always just really good coaches showing me how to play and showing me how to be a professional.
Well, we could have used you in the 80s when we went into Philadelphia, because the Philadelphia flu was pretty big back then.
Well, that's what I watched growing up. I used to watch all the tough guys. Like again, that was what I wanted to be. I had the top 50, heavyweights in the league, and I was watching Probert and Ty and Tony Twist and Kosher. These are the guys I looked up to and wanted to be. I thought it was a great role. It's just fun to watch that style of hockey.
Now, talk about the transition to WHL from the Manitoba Junior League. And I got you on that same note. Was there a point once you started establishing yourself there? So talk about the transition you had to make moving into that league, and the guys you were dealing with were maybe a little bigger, maybe a little stronger than some of the other guys challenging you, or maybe they weren't. But then was there a point then in your career you felt you were starting to separate yourself from the rest of the pack and you really had a shot to go forward from here even?
Yeah, I think it was probably like that year in Swift Current. I was 17 years old with Todd McClellan, and I think that was the year where I really started to teams started to take notice. They liked the way I stood up for my teammates. I did get some. I obviously did play a lot still. I was still a third line checker, but teams looked at me to still be out there, and they want me to change momentum, and they want me to get on the forecheck, and I can create energy. So I still had a big prominent role in the team. I just was able to kind of make sure that I could fight when needed, and I think that was very big back then. So right around that time, I started to see some NHL teams starting to take notice, started to come to games, started talking a little bit, and it was one of those things where we were talking to my dad, just sitting there on one time he was up in Swift Current. He's like, "This is real. Like this is something that really could happen." And it wasn't something maybe as a kid I dreamed of necessarily because I started so late. But around that time, it was when it started to become real, and we really started to push, and I wanted to make that next level. And then you started to get trainers, and you started to work on your game and getting, work on your skating. So it was something for me. I always pushed myself. I always wanted to put that extra effort in because I had to be. I was always the guy that had to be on the ice last, and working on my game. So it was just a lot of hard work that really pushed me to get there.
Picture from junior there, you had a lot of hair in that picture.
I know. Where's it all go after all these years?
Not everybody's as fortunate as us, Squid. We can still keep all our feathers. Now, Squid, I want to get you in on this too. Now, you guys know there's definitely a point when you guys are playing junior hockey or sometime along those lines where there is a separation that does take place amongst the good players and then the player that goes to that next level. Squid, what about you? Was there a moment in time for you and you thought, because you're playing against a lot of good players too, where you felt that I can take this? And let me throw this one at you. I'm going to guess when the Marlies drafted you, that might have been an indication, maybe this is for real.
Yeah. I mean, I believe it was when they drafted me, and then I also went fourth overall to Sherbrooke in the Quebec League because there was no junior teams in the Maritimes at the time. And I think at that point I thought, you know what, maybe there's a good chance I could make it. And then I went to Sherbrooke instead of the Marlies, obviously, because they had won a Memorial Cup the year before. Millions of people in Toronto. I thought Sherbrooke would be a better place for me. And then I won Rookie of the Year my first year as a 17-year-old. So I kind of figured, well, okay, I think there's a real good chance now.
Yeah. Well, and Colton, along the lines for you, the reason I ask all this is because, and Squid and I've talked to us a lot about his game when he went in, he was fighting and, trying to score all the time to make himself noticeable and to let guys know he belonged in the league. But I asked that again, did you have to make a conscious decision that if you're going to make this league, once you're in as a guy who's going to step up and do the dirty job, you're all in, there's no turning back?
Yeah, no, that was my role. I knew exactly what I had to do. And I think that's what I got praised for a lot of the time was like, they never had to tell me. No one ever sent me in my career to be like, hey, go take care of so-and-so. They knew that I could see and read the situation, and I wouldn't put my team down and, put them down as shorthanded or take bad penalties. I was always kind of within the rules, make sure people knew, hey, if you're going to mess around with Jaromir Jagr or Brendan Shanahan, or Phil Kessel or anybody, then you're gonna have to deal with me. And just the way I played the game. Like I said, I took pride in that role and what I did. And I think it's a tough role to play. So I had a lot of respect for the guys that are doing the same thing, going up against. But that's what I knew. I knew that's what I had to do to get there. I wasn't going to get there on any kind of goal scoring. Obviously, I wanted to add that. I was always looking to add more to my game and I'd be more of a player than not just an enforcer. And I think that's what was able to keep me around a little bit longer. But that was, for me, I always knew my role.
So now, when you're talking about your first fight, My first fight, and of course, I came out of PEI. I had a little bit of that in me anyway. I wasn't going to get pushed around. But my first fight was against Mario Marois. And you know how it is where your teammates will say, well, this guy's a lefty. You got to watch out for whatever. Nobody told me. So he hit me with about 5 punches before I even knew I was in a fight. and he was 19 years old at the time. But I did okay. And you know what? I kept banging away at it and thinking, okay, you know what? If you want to fight, I'll fight you. But I'm not good at it. I'm not great at it. But I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm going to be here and I'm going to score goals. And if you want to fight me, you're going to have to bang your fists off my helmet or something.
Yeah, I feel like that's like the little bit of the change in the game today, right? Is like I felt like everyone at least knew they had to respond, or if they did something across the line a little bit, like and guys would. I think a little bit now is guys don't have that, and some of the guys won't get into that that type of stuff.
Now, Colton, your draft year, was there any talk that you were going to get taken? And then obviously, when you weren't drafted, obviously you're very disappointed. But how did you respond to that? And then how did the Bruins opportunity come to you? Teams hadn't even interested you.
Yeah, so I didn't get drafted. Obviously, top. There was some talks. I had a couple letters from the Panthers, the Bruins, and a few teams. I think the Leafs as well. So there was some talk and some recognition. I was hearing some teams. I didn't think it was going to be obviously high, maybe like later rounds, obviously. But was just hoping to get drafted. Didn't get drafted, but then the Boston Bruins reached out to me right afterwards and invited me to a free agent camp. And just from there, I think my first inter-squad game, I had 3 fights versus Brendan Walsh. It was like he jumped me. I went back, jumped him. And then we had another fight just to end off the day. And that was like a 7:30 a.m. in the morning game, the very first inter-squad game of the tournament. And it was just that set the tone for, what I was there for and what I was willing to do. And from there, I got asked to main camp. And I just kept doing my thing. I kept just trying to get noticed. It's, wanting the people to see me, see who I was. See that obviously going to the Boston Bruins or on the back of your jerseys, you're going to get noticed right off the bat for sure. But I wasn't playing the same style of game, that's for sure. But it was just going in there and being recognized and making sure people took notice. And from there, I was able to sign a free agent contract right out there and then go back in juniors and play for a year. And then just, found my way into the league and again, made my name for myself in Providence with, I think I had 70 fights my first 2 years within the AHL. Just out there taking care of my teammates.
Squid?
Okay, I got to ask you a question about your last name. How did that go when you went to Boston? Of all places, what was that like? With that name on the back of your sweater.
Well, at least I had it in my corner. The Orr Group was my agency when I played, so I had the representation, and so I had him always in my corner, which was awesome. And when Bobby Orr calls, you know they're going to answer. So it was awesome. But yeah, everywhere I go, the first question was, "Are you related?" And by the end of it, I just started calling him Uncle Bobby because it was just getting too much all the time. So no relation. But yeah, it was every question. I would just start answering. I'd be like, "Guys, first we get started. I'm Colton Orr, no relation." What else you got?
Now, just as a sidebar, did you ever get an analysis why you weren't drafted by any of the teams? Or did the Bruins say to you, we couldn't believe you were still there, but maybe you need to work on this more or this or something else,
Yeah, not really. Everyone knew what I was there for. I think it was just a more like they figured they could not waste a draft pick, and I would still be sitting there. I did see a couple of my buddies get drafted, like Matt Sommerfeld to Florida, and a couple other players that I thought was like similar style. So, like I said, a little disappointment from not being able to get drafted. But again, I think that's my career is what. Kind of what happened throughout. And like I said, I'd get cut from a team, whether it was, when I was 16, cut from the West, and then going back to and playing the MJ and making next year. That was just always kind of see my path. I had to get cut and then, or not get drafted. It just keep pushing me. Just kept my drive alive to want to prove people wrong all the time.
So talk about, when you went into the league, so talk about the biggest change going from junior to playing professional hockey and maybe even Providence. And then the step from Providence to going to the NHL, like besides obviously the players are maybe stronger and faster and stuff like that. But what was the first thing that really stuck out for you?
Yeah, I think just getting in, starting the pro game, you're playing with men. You're playing with people that are like they've got other lives. And they're not just they're playing junior high, going to school. So it's a little bit different. Being a rookie coming in there. But I think for me, people like took me under their wing when I got to Providence. I had guys like Brent Myers, Doug Duell, Lee Gorn, and the guys up top like Thornton was there, Murray, Lapointe. I remember all these guys from training camp just kind of really taking me under their wing and showing me how to be a professional. I think that was the biggest thing is just being taught well from an early age what it's like, and making sure you're taking care of your trainers, making sure you're always at the rink at the right time and putting in the work and doing the right things. I think I was very obviously noticed a difference. I think what I found interesting was going from Providence or going from the AHL to the NHL. In a way, found it to be a little bit easier almost because you're surrounding yourself with a little bit better players. And I knew if I just made the simple plays, got the puck out, got the puck to my center, that they were going to do more with it. So it actually became a little bit of a simpler game once I got to the NHL, just knowing I'd have better players around me. And it was a little bit more of a team game. When you're down in the AHL, everyone's a little fighting for themselves and trying to prove themselves, where it came a little bit more difficult, but I think that was the biggest difference. And then you had to fight a lot more, obviously, in the AHL than I did up top.
Squid?
Yeah, I mean, but the funny thing was, my last year in Buffalo, I ended up going to Rochester because I wasn't playing when John Muckler took over for Rick Dudley, and I went down there at the deadline and played the rest of the year. We went to the semifinals. I was actually pretty surprised at how good the American Hockey League was. I wasn't expecting it to be that good. And, of course, I hadn't played in about 3 months, so it took me a while to get into the groove of being back in the game and playing on a regular basis. But I was impressed. They ran a really good program in Rochester, and the hockey was excellent.
But it just shows you, how just a little bit, right, to make it, and just those little intangibles, those little things that makes a difference from that level. There's so many talented hockey players out there that don't ever even get that chance, but are down there playing there and making a living down there. So it's definitely there's a lot of talent out there these days.
Well, I would ask you both to answer this one. It's something that would surprise the listeners about the AHL. As far as maybe the level of play, talent, toughness, whatever. I don't want to put words in it, but it would really surprise them that actually surprised you at how good it was. Because everybody's goal when you're at your level is trying to get to the NHL. But that stop along the way, it's a pretty big jump.
I didn't play in the American League to begin with. I did at the end of my career. And, I was really surprised at how good it was. But I watched my son play in the American League and in the ECHL and the American League in San Antonio, Hartford, Bridgeport, Rochester. And, but again, it's a different role. Like when he was in the American League, he was like a fourth line guy, tough guy. He's 6'6", 245. So, his job was to protect his teammates and bang and crash and that sort of thing. And then he goes down to the ECHL and all of a sudden he's on the first line and, he's a 35, 40 goal scorer. So I think that's the biggest thing with guys going from one league to another is they don't understand that they have to take on a different role. And, as you move up, a lot of guys, you're the best player on your team all the way up. Then you get to the National League and you go, holy cow, everybody here is good. So I got to do something different. And that, I think, is what separates guys from staying in the American Hockey League or making it to the NHL.
Colton?
Yeah, no, I just go back to my 1 year there in the lockout year in 2004, when there was no NHL. And, we had a lot of the top prospects down with us in Providence, like Bergeron and Hilbert and trying to think of Tim Thomas was a goaltender at the time. But it was good hockey. Like without the NHL, having all the prospects down there, it was one of my funnest years of my career, just because of how good the hockey was, how competitive it was. You didn't have the pressure of like, hey, if I play harder, I'm going to go up. So everyone's we're buying into that team game, and at that point, like that level was so good. It was hockey that you wanted to watch. We went to the the Eastern Conference Finals that year. And it was just good, tough hockey, physical. Everyone had like 2-3 tough guys on the team, but there was just a lot of skill in the league with all the young prospects. And it just shows you, like how close it is and how good that league is, especially when you just got to see it by itself, stand alone like that.
Now, you get picked up by the Rangers. How did that come about? Or you're a little surprised that was happening? And how was the experience? And I guess, obviously, you've never been asked this before. So this is the first of all time being asked this as a Ranger, the Ovi incident.
So I'll start with, obviously, I didn't know this at the time when I was being put on waivers. But I see Nick Patillo all the time here doing some alumni stuff and at the rink. And at the time, so he tells the story from his point of view. And I guess the Boston Bruins, I guess he found out word that they were going to put me on waivers, and he said, don't do it. He's like, we're going to pick him up. Like, we know what he can bring, and we know his toughness. And so he says, like, don't do it. Like, we're going to grab him. And sure enough, they put me on waivers, and I get picked up by the New York Rangers. And obviously it's another, original six market that I'm going into. So I'm just as excited. You're going in the MSG. So all the history there was just pretty exciting. And so to be able to get here and go to another team with a big mark like that was pretty awesome. And then getting there and having Tom Rennie as my coach, he was a really good for me as my career and a mentor for me. I still talk to him to this day about coaching things and different things and how to manage my team and my players. But he took me in, and again, he was another coach that didn't see me just as an enforcer. I'd play as a checking line. I'd go up against Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin and try and throw them off their game. And you asked the question about the Ovi incident, and it's a great story because it's just old school hockey. Donald Brashear went after Brendan Shanahan, and Brendan Shanahan is not going to back down from Brashear, so he decided to fight him, and they had a fight center ice in MSU. It's just an epic battle to watch them go to toe to toe like that, and see Brendan stand in there like the way he did, and. But and I have to take something back. I told you at the beginning of the show that I was never sent to go out and do anything, and I hope I don't get myself in any trouble here. Yeah. But Tom Rennie did give me a little nudge and says, go take care of something after he saw Donald Brashear going after Shanahan. And so I knew at that point that, I was going to go line up Alex Ovechkin. And so I got up there to a face-off. I didn't even know there was a puck on the ice at that point. As soon as it was dropped, I just found him on the ice, went right over, cross-checked him square in the mouth, knocked out his front teeth. I was, big part of his smile that he has here today. But yeah, it was just one of those things. Like, don't mess with us. If you're going to mess with our top guy, we're going to go after your top guy. I think I got like a 5-game suspension for that. But the players as a team got a fun together and end up helping out and kind of taking care of some of that suspension, so I didn't have to eat the whole thing, which was just to show kind of how appreciated what I did as a role. So it went a long way for a team to do something like that, and the players to do it for them on their own. So it was kind of obviously a crazy moment, but it was just to show you what the team did for me and how they respect me. It was pretty neat.
Well, hey, no fan of Ovi, so I'm good with it, by the way.
I guess that's got to be pretty cool that you got to play in 3 original 6 cities.
Yeah,
that's unbelievable.
It was just to be like, and then obviously finishing my career in Toronto and being in that market, being back in Canada, wearing the maple leaf on my chest. It's just awesome. I look back at my career so privileged and blessed to be able to say, I played for that long, played for such great organizations, still involved with all of them today. And again, it's just great markets, great organizations, great teams that take care of their players all the time. So it's very special to play with these teams.
Well, we do have a little bit of league-centric to this show, so I guess we've saving the best for the last. Now, July 1st, 2009, you signed as a free agent with the Leafs, 4-year deal. But I think the thing about it is, with Brian Burke signing you, did that give you a whole different thought process of what this role really would mean for you in Toronto? Like, this would be significant. Not that the others weren't, but you know where I'm coming from. Yeah,
it was big. Obviously, having the conversation with Burke right off the bat on free agency, it was exciting. I really felt wanted for what I did in my career and my toughness and what I did, and I was going to come in there and have a real kind of role, a significant role at the team to help trying to kind of rebuild an organization that wasn't in the best place at the time. And Obviously, we didn't get to where we want to, but I still think we had some gritty teams along the way. We did make the playoffs. Obviously, an unfortunate one. We're losing to the Bruins. It's obviously great to get out that first round this year, so I don't have to hear about that anymore. Because usually around this time, getting to playoffs, I get calls from Toronto media going, "So what happened that game?" And I just, guys, I don't want to relive it anymore. So it's just nice that we finally got we're out that first round, and hopefully we can make some noise next year again. But yeah, it was just it was a great market to be in. Obviously, you can't beat being in Toronto, and just how much they love hockey and love their team. And it's great to just be able to go out there and the fans appreciate what I did as well, which was awesome. So I love being a part of that city and being around there. And so I had 6 good years there, which was a really good time.
It's good.
So Colton, I want to take you into the coaching bit a little bit. You obviously played well. It might have been a little different when you were playing how you were coached. I mean, in my day, it was like there wasn't much communication. How big do you think communicating with your players is in today's game, with whether it's the women's team, the men's, whatever, American League, NHL, doesn't really matter. I mean, communication has got to be the biggest key to being a good coach, I would think, in today's game.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's huge. I definitely played for a lot of different coaches. Definitely some hard. I played Randy Carlisle in Toronto, and actually I think Randy was great as well. Like he also respected me as a player and wanted me to play a certain role and gave me that opportunity to get back up from the Marlies. But he's hard nosed sometimes. You don't play for him, he's going to let you know. He's very strict, in that kind of way, and has that kind of presence about him that, like, if you're, you got to make sure you play because he's going to let you know if you don't. But again, I think that what's changed a lot is that communication. I think it's a big part of my coaching style. The way I communicate with my players is I want to know what's going on. I want to know what they're like, away from the rink, on the ice, at the rink, all that kind of thing. I think it's very important for an athlete to be able to have that kind of communication, have those relationships with their coaches. It keeps it's just easier. There's no guessing games when it comes to stuff. You hold yourself accountable. They know what's going on. They know their roles. So there's no guessing at the end of the day, I think. So I think communication is very important as a coach.
Yeah, it's funny because when I finished playing, the first thing I did was I took like a short psychology course online. I bought a bunch of books on sports psychology, regular psychology. One of the things I did when I went to Charleston in the ECHL is every day I would pick 3 guys that I was going to have a conversation with. And it wasn't necessarily about hockey. It was, how are things, is the apartment's okay? Is there anything that I can do anytime, you have my number? I thought that was the most important thing that I could do with the players, was let them know that, first of all, I cared about how they were doing. And, that if I gave them heck when I come into the room, they knew that, hey, I like them, but
Yep.
I gotta be hard on them sometimes too. And I think that was the biggest reason why I had a success as a coach.
Yeah, I agree. When players know that you care for them, you want the best for them, you want to get the best out of them, and that's why you're pushing them. Like, they understand it, they get it, right? Like, they want to be pushed, but they also want to know why and why you're pushing them and when you're going to push them hard and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a similar kind of thing. We always make sure we know it with the Connecticut Whale that our coaching office is always open. You can always come talk to us. We said we want to know what's going on. We want to help. Obviously, as a coach, it's our word is the final say. But it's important to hear what's going on in your room. What we get that feedback from your players. I think you'll figure out a lot, and you'll know kind of a lot more what's going on when you do have that communication.
Yeah, a lot different than when I played, when the coaches hardly said a word. It was they come in the room and
scared to walk by them.
Well, one of the other things Squid and I've talked a lot about to anybody from Gabby Boudreau to Jared Bednar to all the coaches we've had on who were players at one time, and coming to you now, and Squid's answered this question in the past, and you can certainly chime in and say something else along those lines. One of the hardest things about moving from a player to a coach. Now, I'll throw my point in. One of the things I always suggest to this guys is standing behind the bench and instructing the player of how you'd like him to play to make him a better player. But he doesn't know how to do it, or he can't do it, but you can't go on the ice and show him. All you can do is instruct. Like, is that got to be one of the most frustrating things as a coach, conforming from a player?
Yeah, it is hard. Like I said, you want to be out there all the time, and it's something I'm sure we've said it all the time. It's like I can't go out there and do this for you, so can you just do it this way, please? But yeah, it is. It definitely is tough. But I think right now, when you get to a point where really, I think I get the excitement from watching my team grow, watching us put together in the off season and bringing in some players and watching everything kind of come together. I think it's so rewarding as a coach to be able to do that and watch players succeed. And I love players that that have that same kind of work ethic, and maybe not the most skill overall, but they want to get better and they want to improve. So definitely for me, I love players like that are going to come in and put that kind of effort in, and I think it helps coaches to be able to kind of have those players on your team that are going to push other teammates, going to hold people accountable.
Yep.
Again, they have that work ethic, that skill. But yeah, it definitely can be tough when you're not getting those results you need.
Yeah, the one thing I found, especially in the ECHL, the good part was that you controlled everything. You recruited the players, and one of my biggest things was I wanted to recruit guys that were good, players. But also they had that ability to communicate with their teammates, and they were good leaders. And you could move guys in and out there very easily. The American League was a little bit tougher because those guys are all drafted, and you got to play them. So you got to find a way to make them better. And it was a little bit difficult at times in the American League, but I had some pretty good players in St. John, Calgary's farm team. But you still had to communicate with these kids and let them know, what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, and kind of try to get them to play their best.
Yeah, very, very similar Connecticut with us. Very small staff. It's like my GM Alexis Mode, myself, and a couple other coaches, and we're doing all the recruiting, all the salary cap stuff, all the coaching, all the skills, all that kind of stuff. But it's really fun to have that hands-on approach, though, because you really get to kind of put your stamp on a team and the style and exactly what you said. For us, it's all about culture. And we want the best players and we want the most talented players, but we want you to fit into our locker room. We want to fit into what we're doing. We want you to buy into our systems and how we want to play. And we play a very, a unit of five. We play a very big team game, and we ask a lot in our defensive systems and our structures, the way we play from our players. That's just, the way it is. And I think it's been a lot of fun to be able to do that and have all those kind of different things and the recruiting and all that together. It's been a lot of fun and a great learning experience for myself.
Well, one of the things,
the hotels and the buses and everything too, because I did.
No, I'm not getting on that one. I got a little more help than that one.
A little more help. Yeah. Well, here's one for you both again on my view. And today with the game chain, I'm an old guy. Okay, Squid's almost as old as me, but not quite. The the way the game has changed now with all the analytics and everything's pinpoint this and pinpoint that, and everybody's instructed to play this certain role and way and all this kind of stuff. Would you agree or not agree that, and this is my thought, is that still 80% of that or 75% of that may be analytical and technical, but that still leaves another 20 or 25% where the hockey player has to be a hockey player. Like there's a skill that got him to that level at some point in his career. At some point, he's got to let that kick in and be a hockey player.
Yeah, I agree. And all these analytics you see, and again, I'm not anti-analytics. I think they're very important. I think they can help you support up what you see sometimes and back up some of the stuff you're talking about as a team. Or if you see your team playing a certain way, you can kind of go back and show them some things like just whether you're getting your entries or you're getting getting pucks out or your turnovers, whatever it is. I definitely think there's a lot of things that you can take from it. But again, like you said, in the end, it's up to the players. It's up to your will. It's up to your work ethic. It's up for you, the guys, to come together as a team and play for something. For me, the biggest thing is when I have good teams, everyone's buying into one thing. There's no selfishness out there. There's no problems in the dressing room. We're all kind of just you have the same goal in mind and that same kind of just that compete level. Like, hey, we're going to go out there. I'm going to trust my teammates. I know how they're going to play, and I know that if I do my job, they're going to do their job, and we'll be successful. And I think that's the biggest thing.
Well, yeah, analytics, I think, play a little bit of part in hockey. I think they're more important maybe in a sport like baseball, some of the other sports. But, there's certain things that I don't think, they look at these, how much they have the puck and and that sort of thing. And I'm going, well, what difference does it make? If you don't do anything with it, then
Yeah.
you can have it for 15 minutes in a game. But if you don't do anything with it, then what good is it, right? And
to me, nothing's going to beat the I agree. Nothing's going to beat the eye test, right? Like you can see all the analytics in the world, but in the end, it's up to, I think you still need really good scouts in there finding that talent, right? Like you can't just base things on numbers all the time. You got to see what else do they bring, and I think the eye test in the end, you got to someone that can really see the talent there, really see the potential in players. Like that's where you're going to hit home runs, and you got to find some players that can improve and get better.
Well, where I was going with it, I was looking at the players.
What do you think?
Oh, sorry, Squid.
Okay, what do you think about the NHL? I mean, you got 4 coaches on the bench.
Oh,
I mean, you got 4 coaches talking to the players. Like, you think that's necessary, or would it be better if you had 2, maybe 3, and one guy upstairs who's relating things from upstairs?
Well, I think for us, and that's what we had. We had our head coach, we had our forward coach, we had our D coach, and then we had somebody upstairs. I think that's the way to do it. I think it gives you the the head coach the opportunity to kind of really focus on what he wants, and then when you got your other 2 working on that. I think the biggest thing is what it drives me nuts is those iPads on the bench. I don't think those are doing anything out there. Obviously we do a lot of video as the coaches and stuff like that, but I think in that moment, I don't think it's necessary. I'd rather players be involved in the game and talking to each other. If we need to see anything in the intermissions, that's fine. You can always have your video coach pull some things up. I've never understood that, and maybe just I didn't have it in my career on the bench or anything like that. But to me, that's my biggest thing that I don't like to see.
I think it's a distraction that you don't need.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like you said, it does take away from the game. It's like we don't want cell phones. I don't want technology in my room, things like that. I want players to be there, present. I don't want them on screens like that.
No, what I was trying to stick up for you coaches a little bit, because like in today's modern age, if you look at a guy on the bench and things aren't going well for him, first he's looking back at the coach. Like, what am I supposed to do? Well, the idea is do something. Like if you're a goal scorer and the puck's not going net, run somebody. Take a hit, back check harder. Like take a slap, like do something. Like do something. Use your hockey skills that God gave you and got you to this league. Like don't always look into the coach say, well, the F1's got to go cover the F2 to keep it high, to go to the slot and use your good stick. Screw that. Go and run somebody. Take a guy out.
That's the biggest thing we always talk about getting ready for games is get yourself into it early. What does it take, right? Is it getting body contact? Is it getting a shot on goal? Like whatever it is to take you to get into a game, do it early. Do it like whether it's just simple, making that first pass or that first breakup, but whatever it is, it's just to get yourself into it. Do something early on to feel like you're involved in the game. That's something we talk about all the time.
Yeah, you know what the funny part is that when I played, the person that always knew if I was going to have a good game or not was my wife, believe it or not. She goes, if I got a hit or got knocked on my ass early in the game, she goes, oh, he's going to have a good game.
Here's a question for you, Colton. And no disrespect to New York about you. Played in 3 original 6 cities, coming from Western Canada. Everybody always hears about what life's like playing for one of those teams. But then Toronto seems to be, and I'm not saying just because we're Toronto, Curtis Joseph, who grew up in an area, said, we asked him the same type of question that was as you expected playing for the Maple Leafs. You would see them on TV, obviously, in Manitoba. But, as expected, not so much or way beyond expectations. And I'm talking about life, not only on the ice, but away from the rink, the media, the attention that you get, everything.
Yeah, obviously the media, it can be difficult in a market like this. There's a lot of it. There's a lot of tension on the team. I think that it definitely can be tough. I think but you're in a market where it's got the good and the bad, right? Like for myself, if I go play in a smaller market and being a tough guy enforcer, maybe you don't ever hear about me, but playing in some of these big markets like I have, I was able to make a bit of a name for myself, and it's helped me, post hockey and being involved in a lot of things and making a lot of connections. I think it was great to be in there, but when it became really difficult, was when I got sent down to the Marlies for that first time, and Berkey kind of had that press conference just talking about how the game's changing a little bit, and the enforcer, isn't that much, needed as much more. And he talked about the Rats taking over the game a little bit. I think that's where you see it can be really hard, because at that point there was a lot of focus on my role as an individual and what I did. And that can be challenging sometimes when they're kind of pointing fingers at a player that's in this, kind of singling them out, for things maybe not going great in the organization. It's something that, I think can be tough and challenging. At times, you got to have thick skin and be ready for those kind of things if you're going to go into a big market.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that. I mean, especially as a captain in Maple Leafs, I mean, you got to answer a lot of questions. The only saving grace that I had back then was Harold Ballard, because he was always wanted to be on the front page. So he was always in the news. So we didn't have to talk as much.
Yeah. Well, we had that in New York when I had Sean Avery. So he definitely took all the attention away from
Oh, God, there you go.
Yeah. So and when I was in Toronto and having Dion Phaneuf as a captain, I thought he was really good at that, at taking a lot of the blame and taking a lot of the heat from the media and trying to keep it off guys like myself and Kessel and Bosey and things like that. Like he did a really good job of always kind of putting himself out there.
Now, Who was the best chirper amongst the enforcers you dealt with? You mentioned one of them right there.
Oh, yeah. No, well, Avery was the one that was always getting me in fights. He was always the one out there to go start them and go finish them, back them up. But yeah, I think Brian McGrattan, going against him, he was always chirping and always talking all the time. Actually, there was a time when he was coming into, I think he was playing with Calgary at the time. He's coming into Toronto, and we had our trainer, Andy Plater, had him in Ottawa as well. So he was texting Andy going, "Hey, tell Orzi I got a new move for him pre-game, like during the day." And I was like, "Okay, I guess I'm going tonight." And then sure enough, we square off in Toronto, and we just have another crazy battle like every time we had, just toe to toe. But I ended up putting his nose like on this side of his face over here. I remember talking to him after. I was like, "Hey, Big Ern, where's that move you were talking about?" And he goes, "I guess getting my nose put across on the other side of my face." So I never fought him again, because I thought eventually he was going to bring that move out, and I didn't want to see it.
Well, now the incident with George Peros, obviously a very scary moment. But as an opponent, you guys are just engaged in doing your jobs, both, just going out doing what you're paid to do and what's expected. There's no real hatred, but that must have been very emotional on you.
It was, and I can't imagine what it was like for George and his family going through something like that. I definitely believe, like, later in my career, having kids changed a little bit. You had a little bit more responsibility, a little bit more, things to worry about in life. Definitely putting your head on the line like that all the time was tough. Seeing him go down like that, there's one thing to knock a guy out when you punch him and then go down the ice, but to see a guy hit the ice like that, just the sound of it all, it's tough to even think about sometimes. But it definitely changed the way I looked at the game a little bit and how I played after that, and it definitely put a little bit of thoughts in the back of your head when you're going up against guys like that and fighting like that. That could easily have been me. So it is definitely a hard one. I think it was one of the toughest ones that I had to deal with in my career. Again, like I said, I couldn't imagine being on the other end of that. But it was a scary time, and obviously George is okay, and he was fine, and we've had conversations about it a lot. Again, it's one of those things, those fluke accidents that happen, but definitely a scary moment for sure.
No, I mean, you don't want to see things like that, obviously. I mean, they happen, but I mean, that's got to be a tough situation for not just for him, but for you as well. And I can't even imagine what that would be like.
Yeah, I've never been in that situation. I had the one, obviously the one in Philly when I was at the Rangers and top at Orc, and I said that was a punch, and I saw him afterwards, and he's like, "I was trying to do the same thing to you anyway, so it just happened to get me first." And it's one of those ones where you just shake those ones off, right? Like, I've got knocked out. I think Peros knocked me out a couple of times, and obviously you don't want it to happen, but it's different. That was just the ice is what changed it.
Now, sometimes the enforcers, the guys in the team, are very popular, but they're also been known to be pranksters. Were you a prankster in your day?
No, not really. I think a few of them. I think one of our favorite ones that we did, we got a guy with the cell phone in the pocket. We got the trainer the cell phone in his pocket. So then once a team meeting was going on, the trainer would be in the back, just continuing to call his phone. He can't go into his pocket and get it. I thought that was a good one. But yeah, not too much. I didn't get into too many pranks.
That's a good one. Squid, that's the one. That'd be way before your time, Squid. There was no cell phones then.
There was no cell phones, no. Well, they were, but they were the big brick ones. Like, they were about this big.
Like in Wall Street.
And, the first one I had was one of those bag phones that you carried over your shoulder, like they do in the Army.
Oh, man.
Well, Colton, yeah, we can't thank you enough for joining us today. It's been very enlightening. Long time getting you on, and finally we got it all to work today. You're a very busy guy. So, I mean, let's see, you're coaching in the Women's Pro League, you're coaching in the Fed League, you're gym teacher, your kids' school, and you're helping with your son's hockey team too, I assume?
Yeah, I did a lot. So I'm only ownership, only quiet ownership on the Danbury Hat Trick. So I get there as much as I can. But then I also coach my daughter's soccer team. So we got a lot of coaching things going on. Yeah, so it's been awesome. I love being involved in my kids' sports, and I'm just glad they're playing team things. And so I try and be there as much as I can any moment I have.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, Squid, a final thought for Colton before we let him go?
No, well, you're a very busy man, I can tell you that, obviously. And, good luck coaching down the road. And I got to tell you, kids can be so much fun, and enjoy it, because mine are 37 and 33. So
goes quick. It goes quick. So I'm enjoying it.
It goes very, very quick.
Yes, it does. And pretty soon they're asking you for ice cream. Now they're going to be asking you for the keys to your car. Okay.
Don't get me started. I'm not ready for that.
Thanks, Colton, so much for joining, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much, guys.
Okay. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Paul.